God can use your messy. In fact, he wants to use your mess as an example of his goodness and greatness. And so his love can be exemplified and glorified. And so he can reach so many people through your real story. If you have ever been told that your mess or your problems disqualify you from the kingdom and from knowing God, I'm sorry, friend, but that is just a lie. And honestly, if anyone has ever said that to you, they've never actually read the Bible, because the Bible is full of the messiest people I have honestly ever seen. It's truly better than watching a drama or reading a book, because there are so many stories in the Bible about how God chose people who were underqualified or like did some horrible, horrible things or are just like dramatic and messy. And he chose them to use them for his greater good and for a deeper purpose. And we're going to get into that today. So, I was reading in Genesis the other day, and it's honestly been a minute since I've really sat down and read the Bible. I usually just do like a couple verses from my daily devotional, but I found myself in Genesis reading the story of Jacob, and it all just really dawned on me how God can use the messiest people to, like I said, glorify himself for a greater purpose, for the good of those people that he has chosen. And it's honestly it's just so amazing. Okay, so to paraphrase a little bit, the story of Jacob starts out where he steals his brother's blessing, which was a big deal back in the day of the biblical times. And I'm not going to get into it for the sake of this video, but his brother schemed and plotted to murder him because he stole his blessing. And so Jacob ran away. He was like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. I don't want to be killed by my brother, even though I was a sneaky little thief and stole his blessing. And so he's in the wilderness and he hears from God, and God is like, I will be giving you this land. You're going to have so many ancestors one day. Like, I am with you. I am taking care of you. Like, it's all going to be okay, right? And, leave this land, but you'll come back to it. And so Jacob arrives in an eastern land and he sees a well in the distance. And then he stumbles upon the most beautiful woman in the world named Rachel, who is actually his cousin, by the way, which is like, whatever, we'll just leave that there. But he falls into a sort of trap by her father, Laban, and he has to work for 7 years to earn her hand in marriage. And then they literally get him drunk on the wedding night and they sneak in her older sister Leah in there. And so he sleeps with Leah. And of course, this is back in the day. So the marriage is consummated. It is holy. You cannot break that. And so Jacob is like, why did you deceive me? And literally they say like he got Jacob drunk and they snuck Leah in there, and he just didn't notice after pining for Rachel for 7 years that it was a different woman. So Jacob is like, oh my gosh, you deceived me. Like, I want Leah, or I want Rachel. I don't want Leah. Like, what the fruit, man? And Laban is like, okay, I'll give you to her by the end of the week if you agree to work another 7 years. So that is 14 years of more or less slavery to this man because Jacob wanted this one woman. And so then begins this messy, messy process of the battle between two sisters, because Leah is over here like, my husband doesn't like me. My husband doesn't love me. He's not attracted to me. And so the Lord sees that Leah was unloved and he starts giving her children. So we are in Genesis 29, Genesis 29:31. When the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, he enabled her to have children, but Rachel could not conceive. So Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She soon became pregnant again and gave birth to another son. Then she became pregnant a third time and gave birth to another son. Once again, Leah became pregnant and gave birth to another son. When Rachel saw that she wasn't having any children for Jacob, she became jealous of her sister. She pleaded with Jacob, "Give me children or I will die." Then Jacob became furious with Rachel. Am I God? He is the one who has kept you from having children. Then it gets messier. Then Rachel said, take my maid Bilhah and sleep with her. She will bear children for me, and through her I can have a family too. So Rachel gave her servant Bilhah to Jacob as a wife, and he slept with her. Bilhah became pregnant and presented him with a son. Then Bilhah became pregnant again and gave Jacob a second son. Meanwhile, Leah realized that she wasn't getting pregnant anymore. So she took her servant, Zilpah, and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Soon Zilpah presented him with a son. And then Zilpah gave Jacob a second son. Like, how messy is that, right? One day, during the wheat harvest, Reuben, one of Leah's sons, found some mandrakes growing in a field and brought them to his mother, Leah. Rachel begged Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." But Leah angrily replied, and I love this translation because I wonder if it was really said this way. "Wasn't it enough that you stole my husband? Now will you steal my son's mandrakes too?" Like, the drama, the bitterness, the anger, rightfully so. But like, dang, ladies. Rachel answered, "I will let Jacob sleep with you tonight if you give me some of the mandrakes." I mean, I don't think it gets any more toxic than that, right? And so, again, I highly encourage you to continue reading the story because it truly is such a testament of God's goodness and love, and there's so many more deeper purposes to it. Rachel ends up finally becoming pregnant herself and giving birth to her son Joseph, who then becomes eventually the leader of Egypt. And there's so much more story behind that and more purpose behind that. But it's just crazy to read this story and see and almost wonder, like, is God working in this? And of course he is. He was still working through this family line, even though it was messy, even though it was built on rivalry between two sisters, of one sister feeling rejected and not good enough because she wasn't really chosen. She was just brought in, and the other sister feeling like she wasn't good enough because she couldn't conceive children, which again, back in the day was like the most important thing, especially when God is giving them, or rather giving Jacob, like words of affirmation, like, you're gonna birth like the whole tribe of the whole nation, or all the tribes of the nation. And so what I'm trying to say is that God can use your messy. God did not abandon any of these people. He ended up blessing Rachel with her own children as well. And when Joseph's brothers are all jealous of him and they literally sell him, I believe, to slaves or traders. I really should know this story better, but they end up selling him and lying to their father and saying that he died. I'm pretty sure. Okay, I'm really butchering the story. Anyway, like, all of these things happened, and yet God was still working in it. The 12 tribes of Israel came from this family line. They became God's chosen people. And through these people, God was able to do so many more things for them. And it continues the entire story of the Old Testament. And so I say all of this because if your life is messy, if you were listening to this story and you're like, yeah, my life actually is kind of like that. Like, there's so much division and bitterness and rage. And I'm sure there's a lot of trauma as well in these sort of generational patterns that you can see. If your life resonates, or if you resonate with this message, like, and you are feeling like, oh, I could never do what God is calling me to do. I am too ashamed to even come before God, or I can't make a difference. Nobody's going to listen to me. I am so embarrassed or ashamed of my story. Like, this story was literally in the Bible. These were real people that God chose and loved and worked with to fulfill his greater purpose on this earth. So you better believe that your mess is not too much for the Lord. It is not too much for the one who sees you and saves you and can do far beyond what we can imagine, right? So I hope that this word encourages you to actually get back into the word. I honestly had so much fun reading the Bible out loud. I might do more videos like this. And I really just hope that it encourages you to go to God with your mess and watch how He will work it out into something that isn't so messy anymore, or watch Him work it out in spite of the mess. At the end of the day, God just wants to know you personally. And when you surrender to Him, He has so much more in store for you than anything you could do yourself. He has so much more in store for you than your mess. You are more than your mess. You are a child of God and you are chosen and loved by Him. So that's all for today. If you like this video, share, comment, subscribe, like, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.